All right. So my name is Jeff Jarecki. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Volta. We are a MSP, MSSP, and a VAR. I run our Technical Services Division and our Risk Services Division. We run a 24/7 SOC, and we have teams of engineers and architects that assist our customers across the states of Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and we do a lot of East Coast efforts as well around all domains of cybersecurity.
My name is Maurice Stepteau. I am the Chief Information Security Officer at Hardscuffle. I handle all things cybersecurity for us. As we're a pretty small company, I think we're about at 150 something employees now. So that's pretty much it.
All right, hi, and I'm Joe Harrington, Senior Manager of Cybersecurity for Texas Roadhouse. Been in cybersecurity for about a decade, solely in cybersecurity, been in IT for over 25 years. I've only been at Texas Roadhouse for about a year. Before that, I was the CISO for Churchill Downs Incorporated here in Louisville, running all the cybersecurity operations for them. So here to talk about some AI topics.
Yes, we're going to talk about how cyber and AI are doing good things, bad things, and in between things, right? So we're going to dive in and talk about how the AI hype is everywhere, and how has this changed your existing cybersecurity tools? So we're seeing some integration of AI into the cybersecurity tools that exist today, but is that helpful, and how far are they going, and what are you seeing with the tools you already use? Joe, would you like to start?
Sure. So the first thing I'll say about that too is that I was on a panel about 2 years ago talking about AI, and I remember thinking at that point, I'm so done talking about AI. As we all know, it has not gone down since then. It keeps going up. So the interesting thing I think about AI especially in cybersecurity, just in general first, right? So I think I like to look at artificial intelligence. I see it as potentially being as much of a change agent for business as the internet was 20 years ago, right? But I think it started to hit the cybersecurity space in the fact that I look at it as, it's been as much of a blessing as it has been a curse, right? So we have a lot of our products now are coming out with artificial intelligence aspects that are helping us defend our environments. But at the same rate, we have the bad actors out there using artificial intelligence to improve their phishing attacks and things like that. So I think it's really a challenging environment to be in. And I think that it's been really interesting to watch the development of that. And I think with a lot of our tools now, I think they are coming out with a lot of advancements. I know with a lot of our SIM tools, we're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence being plugged into those to really help us do a better job of evaluating the threats that are out there. But I don't know if it's coming fast enough, because I think the threat actors are leveraging a lot better than the defense companies are doing currently.
Joe?
So I agree with a lot of that. I think it's our greatest enabler from a business perspective, but also kind of one of the greatest threats, again, from a business perspective. I mean, if you look, your refrigerators have AI, your toasters, it's crazy. And everybody is throwing the AI label on things, whether it actually adds value or not. My organization, several years ago, we very quickly started training models and utilizing artificial intelligence to augment and automate our 24/7 SOC. We wanted to make sure that we freed up our intelligent analysts to kind of focus on the bigger picture, the correlation, the areas that AI is not yet ready for making good, sound judgments. And in fact, I think that is arguably one of the greatest threats to us as a people right now, is the cognitive decline that we're seeing with artificial intelligence adoption across the decision-making space. So it is really fundamental right now that you don't immediately dive in and start trusting AI. We should be utilizing artificial intelligence to help us learn how to do things, not to always make the decision. I know that we aren't far from where that is going to shift, and we're going to start using it to make the decisions. But my focus is cybersecurity. The last thing I want is for all of my very intelligent analysts and engineers and architects to start offloading the cognitive capabilities required to decide complex things around cybersecurity to a model.
Maurice, did you want to add anything?
Yes, stop using AI to build policies. Our SOC and our SIM both are pretty heavily AI driven with the tools that we use for those. I use it a lot for the training modules that we build for our workforce, and we send those out monthly. So I do use AI a lot for those things. I agree with what both of these guys said. We have to be careful where we use it and that we don't get lazy with it. But you also have to use it to keep up, because one of the things I've noticed, particularly for our training, is the phishing has gotten a lot better. The smishing has gotten a lot better. And so as those things continue to improve, we're going to have to improve with our use of the tools.
One other thing I was going to add to what Jeff said is, I think, cybersecurity over recent years has become much more of a data problem anyway. It's being able to analyze large amounts of data and understand what's happening in your environments and what is your baseline, what's expected and what's out of the expected. And that's where I think the AI is really helpful for us. Is it's really good at doing that. But again, to Jeff's point, if you're using it for that, that's great. If you're using it to take over the analyst's thought process, which is really key, that there's a lot that AI can do, but that the human element is still going to have some advantages over that. That's where we really need to be looking to leverage it for what it's good for.
So as we talk more about data management, where can data management really make a difference for cybersecurity risk assessment? I mean, are there certain corollaries and things that you're trying to put into place in the data management side that influences what you're actually doing in the cyber side? Maurice?
We just had a risk assessment done. It actually addressed that particular issue, in that we did not have proper egress filtering. And that's something that we kind of use AI to address. We had the tools that just weren't turned on. But one of the questions you asked when we met earlier is like, what keeps us up at night? Data management is what keeps me up at night. Have I trained my people about what not to put into your AI tools? That is something that I worry about incessantly. And how do I let people know, hey, your PII and certain things, certain proprietary things that we do, you shouldn't put out there, because it's just a matter of time before all the pieces of the puzzle are put together for bad actors. So when it comes to data management, that's our biggest thing. I said the egress filtering and teaching people not to put certain data into the tools.
So a couple of years ago, I gave a talk on artificial intelligence, and I showed people how to use the AI impact assessment. If you've not ever looked at this, you should look up the AI impact assessment. It is effectively a list of questions. It talks about how incorporating direct artificial intelligence into your business or security processes is going to impact your organization. If you are incorporating artificial intelligence without taking an intelligent look at how you're doing it, you're probably going to be in a bit of trouble soon for a myriad of reasons that could cause operational conflicts, legal conflicts, et cetera, especially if you're using it in a decision-making capacity. So I would strongly recommend looking that up. And I will tell you, I think the role of the future, what I think is coming, is going to be an AI accountability officer, right? There's going to be AI agents. There's already, most of you have probably seen the joke that HR is going to start managing artificial intelligence. It really is AI representations in the organization. We know that this is coming. The problem, and I just had this conversation in the hallway with somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they said, the downside to AI is that it's not accountable. So if you put it in a decision-making capacity, who's accountable for that? Thus, the AI accountability officer. Somebody is going to have to take a responsible step to managing the data that goes into the artificial intelligence, how it is utilized and stored securely in there. Always, if you can, make sure you're doing it in a privatized fashion. Don't train the public models for free, folks. And subsequently, who is going to answer for when it makes decisions that are counter to the business? Because that's where it's going to start.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenging environment around that right now too, because with the data management piece of it, I know we've addressed a bit of this. We've tried to put in some AI governance policies. We have a governance committee that's working over that. We're trying to get our workforce trained on how to use it appropriately, but we still hear, there's still the whispers going on. We're a Microsoft shop, so we're using Copilot. That's the primary one that we've focused on, and we're trying to evaluate any AIs that are going to get used in the environment. And there's a few other products that have integrated it that we've blessed so far, but we still hear people in the environment saying that they're taking things and getting it into their phone and going and using ChatGPT, which is not an approved AI in our environment. So I think, until we can really get it across that there is an impact to the business around this, and have some accountability around that, it's a little bit of the Wild West, in my opinion. But at Texas Roadhouse, we have addressed some of it from a privacy standpoint because there are some states that have already started passing some privacy laws around how you can use artificial intelligence in a hiring process, for example. So some of those things are starting to be addressed, but again, when it's not in our main systems or something that we're looking at every day, it's really kind of difficult to still manage, I think.
Is this changing the way you have your teams, and will cyber and AI actually become one team, or will there be other ways of looking at it administratively?
Yet another thing cyber will be responsible for. Right?
Well, we don't have enough hats already, right?
Exactly. We're already responsible for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Anybody that's been through basic cybersecurity certifications has heard those three terms. Now add to it AI responsibility or accountability. I think as a business, we have fallen short about accountability across the board for years. Cyber teams identify problems, we identify insider threats, we find all these issues and just never seem to do anything about it. And so from our perspective, we do our part. We lay the information on the HR person's desk. There you go. Doesn't really go anywhere. There is going to have to be a culture of accountability at your organization that is holding both humans and the artificial intelligence counterparts, enablers, assistants, whatever. You have to identify accountability. And the culture of accountability, I think, has been a struggle for years. We are way past the timeline that we need to implement that. And this is going to force that hand because somebody is going to start answering for the decisions that your artificial intelligence models are making, and it's going to roll right up top to the C-suite. Therefore, you will find a culture of accountability. So be the champion in your organization that starts calling for it. Go look at the frameworks, start building one.
So what particular threats that we're seeing in AI implementation, what are some of the threats that have become like, oh, we really need to look at that? Are there specific use cases or case studies that you have done internally and said, before we do AI for this, we should really stop and have the cyber team assess?
Got tons to say.
I'm trying
to share them.
Maurice, you got...
I think the thing that comes to mind for me is recently we had a pen test done, and some of the things, not AI specific to what we were doing, but I'm quite sure AI tools were used in the pen test, and it beat us like a drum in certain areas. But the one thing that kind of stood out was the AI pointed out where our vulnerabilities were.
Yes.
And how, also gave us recommendations, actually it was Jeff, gave us recommendations on the improvements that we should make. One of the things that stood out was our our lack of accountability in certain areas.
Oh, we're back to that. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
this is the main thing.
And I'm quite sure some of you have, it's the bane of your existence, but that doggone admin account killed us. It absolutely skewered us. And just having those things highlighted and our ability to address them using AI, I think, will go a long way in helping us move forward.
So identity management type things, or when you say admin, what other types of things?
Well, the bad habit that a lot of us develop is using your admin account for your everyday accounting things that you do, and that admin account gives you access to a lot of things that you normally wouldn't have access to, most people wouldn't have access to. And once that's compromised, you're done.
Well, and I'll just jump in real quick. That I think a lot of the AI threats that we're seeing now in a lot of enterprises, obviously phishing, we talked about that. That's, but we've talked a lot about that, but I just really want to kind of point out that it's really hard because we've trained people, and that's where the training comes in. We've trained people for so many years that, phishing attacks are going to look like this. The spelling's going to be bad. The grammar's going to be not right. And AI just overnight fixed all of that for the threat actors. Now everybody has proper grammar and the spelling's correct and everything looks correct about it. But I think, outside of that too, a lot of the other things that are coming up, the deep fakes that are coming out now, you give the AI a sample and you can have it sound exactly like somebody that, your COO or your CEO. And these are really challenging things to try to deal with because there's a lot of avenues for those to come into the environment, and we can't be in front of all of that.
Can I jump in on it?
Yes, go ahead.
And that's where culture comes in at, of teaching your people to do the things and go through the processes that will allow you to point those things out. You get that email, double checking that it actually came from where it was going to pick up the phone. Walk down the hall to the CEO's office, email him, whatever you have to do to double check those things. Because those things are getting very, but it's the simple things, to what Jeff was saying, the human part of it that will allow you to defend against those attacks.
Oops. Are we good?
Can
Okay. Jeff.
I've got to add something to that. So I literally was just having this conversation in the hallway. I think the answer, for years, we in cybersecurity have been saying, listen, you've got to start with administrative controls, you build the program, it's measurable, and then focus on the endpoint, focus on the identity. The identity is the perimeter to your organization, right? We're all in the cloud. Most of you are aware of this. The challenge that we have now is that we used to say, if you don't have positive control of your endpoints and of your identities and what they're able to do with data and systems and access, you're really missing the point of a cyber program, right? That is where we need to protect because our users just won't learn. And now, due to artificial intelligence, presumably most of you have noticed, you can just take pictures of things. It has optical character recognition. It can extract text from any image. So even if you have positive control of your endpoints, your users, they see how amazing AI is in their personal life. If you think they're going to actually write that report for you now, they're not. They're going to take a picture of the challenge you've presented to them. They're going to feed it straight to ChatGPT or any of the models. They're going to get the feedback. They're probably going to email it to themselves because they're too lazy to type it in. Let's just be direct, right? This is what's going to happen. How do we defeat that? The only way I have ever found to defeat that is with ingrained, passionate education. When you get your security awareness and training program should not be a checkbox for your company anymore. It should not be an automatically distributed video. It should not be automatically distributed emails. They don't work. They work for the percent that are going to work anyway. If you want to reach your users, you have to speak their language. You have to speak your organization's language and talk to them like a human. You have to be passionate about what you do and actually care. And I promise you, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for years. They will listen like they've never listened before. They'll believe you. And if you tie it to their own personal success and their own personal threats, they will start looking out for the company as well as they would for their own environments. And so not just saying, hey, we're shutting off AI, we're not doing this, don't be going to these websites, we're putting in a proxy. No, first things first, train them. Real training from you, a person they know or get to know them. Second, sanction and adopt an internal allowed artificial intelligence machine. However you need that for your organization, if you give them a path, they will use it as long as it's as good as what they can get at home. And for the ones that are like, Anthropic's better, Grok is better, if you train them well, they won't use it. They will believe you on the challenges that are presented by sharing internal corporate data with publicly trained models. Just look up the Samsung stories if you need some good stories to tell. They're incredible. Hundreds of millions of dollars in development, co-development, firmware, executive meetings. The value is immeasurable what Samsung gave up to the public models inadvertently. Perfect stories to use in your training.
So what about policies, Joe? Are there certain policies that you're going to have to either revisit or sort of re-emphasize to teams?
I believe that there are. First of all, I think, like I mentioned, we did put together a specific AI governance policy to let people know that there is, and that was the big thing with that policy, and what we're training on that now is to let people know that we do have, approved models that we've looked at and we've already blessed and said that those are okay to be used in the environment. So we want to make sure people really understand that part of it. I think, it can touch on acceptable use, but again, to what Jeff said, policies only go so far. I mean, we as cybersecurity professionals, we're really happy to put those policies together and publish those policies that nobody ever actually looks at and reads, right? So I think it's important to have them because that's part of the governance structure, but we want to make sure that we're out there talking to people and making sure that we're communicating with them in a forum where they're going to accept that information, not just publishing it in a policy.
So are you upping the number of meetings you're having with certain divisions and that type of thing?
We have taken a prioritized approach. We've looked at the organization and we've looked at the groups that are more likely to use artificial intelligence in their work and started focusing on those groups first and working through those in a prioritized fashion.
Wait, which ones would those be? Like customer service?
No. Not at Texas Roadhouse. Texas Roadhouse has a very distinct philosophy that any interaction with the customer is done on a personal basis.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they will never use artificial intelligence for that. I think for us, it's a lot more in our marketing groups, to a certain extent in our analytics and finance groups, where they're wanting to use it to start doing that analysis of data.
Mm-hmm. Maurice, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, kind of piggyback on what he was saying. One of the things we got dinged on in the risk assessment, we did not have an AI policy. And so we had to develop that to address the AI threat out there. But to piggyback off what Jeff was saying earlier, the training is most important. I put together training modules for our people monthly. Most places do it annually or even quarterly, but I put it out monthly. And in the past year, rather than the normal password, phishing, ransomware training, I've put out 3 on AI to address what's out there, because that's what I've beat it in their head at this point about passwords and phishing. But the AI stuff, not so much. They haven't been hearing that for years and years. And so, like I said, I put out actually 3 modules to address that and the different forms that they'll be challenged with.
So let's talk about money. What about the cyber spend? Are you seeing your ability to spend money because of AI increasing in the cybersecurity area, or are you asking for certain types of budget line items, say for the next 12-month period?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in that the C-suite has been pretty supportive in those things, so our budget will increase. I was able to get the pen testing pretty much codified, so that's something internal and external that will happen annually. Risk assessment was done this year. Next year we'll have a full audit. So I will definitely be increasing spending. I'm pretty sure I'll get more money for training, which again, I think is probably the most important thing. And there are certain projects that where AI will be involved, like our security cameras, those sorts of things where, yeah, our budget will increase.
Okay. Joe?
I think for my organization right now, what we're looking at doing is we're really evaluating our tools at this point, because there are so many tools that are coming into the market now where they're developing machine learning and artificial intelligence as part of the security platforms, that we're not just looking at adding more tools, but we're looking at potentially shifting some of the tools that we're using to get into tools that are going to be a little bit better for us in that from that standpoint. And I think like an example of that, obviously, our phishing detection. I think that's one of the main areas, because we are seeing so much more how the threat actors are getting so much better about it. We're looking at tools that can better assist us in detecting those things that are coming in, help us in that. So, that's just a small example. But again, it's really evaluating the tool sets that we have and making sure that those are appropriate for the threats that we're seeing as we're going forward.
Can you name any of the tools that you've seen that actually have embraced AI that you're using?
Well, a good example is we just did a swap out of, and really it's not really even a product. What we did is we switched to I'll name drop for that, Palo Alto XIM. So we put that in, and that is it's a whole suite of products, right? It's an endpoint, it's a SIM, it's a SOAR platform, all rolled up into one. And one of the real reasons that we chose that, one was because of the real tight integration between all those portions of the platform, but also because they were building machine learning and artificial intelligence in the analytics piece to really be able to detect things that are going on in the environment and alert us to those. And really, it was one of the best products that we saw around doing that.
Mm-hmm. On the Volta side, would you like to weigh in?
It's interesting because we're the provisioner and seller of products, right? So my spend, what I want to kind of warn folks about is if you're not watching venture capitalists and how they're investing in artificial intelligence right now, they're building some pretty amazing tooling for everyone in this room. It's great, and you're going to become super dependent upon it. And then they're going to come back for their money. The prices are going to go up. Your spend is going to have to go up, or you're going to lose the functionality that you are beginning to enjoy right now. So if you aren't seeing an increase in your spend now, prepare, because you will. And I don't think it's going to be that long. I'm starting to read articles now. I just saw some yesterday about how some of the venture capitalists are starting to pull back a little bit on their funding because they're saying, okay, we have really distributed our funds across a diverse set of investments. And we aren't really sure how we're going to start getting the money back because of the unbelievable compute that is required, which is driving up the demand for available natural resources and power and data centers, which is going to drive up the prices of everything. And so because of that, how are they going to get their money back when all of a sudden everything they've built is reliant upon a commodity that is dramatically increasing in price and a customer base who does not necessarily want to spend the money? So be prepared, because it inevitably will fall back on our budgets.
And just to piggyback on what Jeff said too, I think that is one of the key things to think about with this, because it's not only those products that are leveraging the AI, it's all of the co-pilots and the chat GPTs and all of the other companies that are out there building these things, which require a tremendous amount of resources. And so everybody's going to be contending for those resources, and power is going to go up and so forth and so on.
They said like a single prompt on ChatGPT is like running your microwave for 45 seconds. Think about that.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. They're trying to make more efficient models, but they're not there yet. It's just not there. So the cost is going to keep going up.
So if you had a wish list, like what would be at the top of your wish list for a spend in the next 12 months as it relates to cyber?
I'm not the best person to ask for that. Okay. We do internal, so like my team has been developing an artificial intelligence locally for years. We have all of our own models, our own servers. We aren't struggling with what a lot of companies are who are outsourcing all of their AI activities and efforts. We're doing it internally. So we're able to cut back our costs. We can completely and totally control it because it's entirely up to us and what we choose to do with it. But I know that the majority of organizations are not spinning up internal AI teams, so they are trusting partners like us, or they're trusting other partners to help them in this AI journey. And that's going to be a very different, that's why I say I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, because I'm a little spoiled. I have access to all the toys right now.
Okay, so Maurice, what do you think?
In addition to the training and the different projects that you do throughout the year, whether it's a pen test or risk assessment or whatever, I think the expansion in the tools that our SOC and our SIM use will probably be primary as far as expansion of AI tools that we use.
What's the reasoning behind that?
The threats are increasing. And so
it's like we're not seeing the end of that.
Right.
We're going to have more threats.
Right. The thing I think about with that is there's some of it this agentic, and I think that's the part that everybody's kind of scared of, replacing things. But we're going to have to use whatever the best AI technology is going forward.
Mm-hmm. Joe?
And I think I'll shock everybody in this room by saying I'm going to ask for as much as I think I can get away with. No, but seriously, I think, what we're trying to do, really actually to Jeff's point, is that we know we don't have all the expertise we need in this area. So we really are looking to leverage partners to help with as much of this as we can. And I think we're going to be strategic about our spend. We're going to take a real hard look at our risks and prioritize. And we know this isn't a 1-year problem. This isn't something that's going to be solved with our 2026 budget. So we're going to continue to keep evaluating that and make the changes that we can. But it is definitely going to cause an increase in the cybersecurity spend.
So as we talk about the spend rising, we may need more personnel, but we have hiring practices now that everyone wants to use the AI tools. So how are you in your cyber division talking to HR about, well, where are we going to draw the line, and are we going to use a lot of AI? Is there any discussion yet in that area? Joe?
Yeah, we have addressed that. I mentioned that earlier too, that the way our approach at Texas Roadhouse, because we operate in, I think we are in, I should really know this, but it's not quite 50 states, but very close to it. So we are, from a regulatory perspective, we're all over the board. It's the great thing about this country is that we do have the states, but all the states have their own laws, and we have to abide by all of them. So what we do is our standard practice at Roadhouse is we go by the most restrictive regulation that's out there. So for us, it's been easy because from a privacy perspective, there's at least one state that says you can't do this. So we've just told them you can't do it. So that's made it a little bit easier now. And that's from the perspective of the AI can't make decisions. It can still make recommendations, and we're working with them closely to make sure that and the tool that we use does have AI capabilities, and we're making sure that anytime they are leveraging those capabilities, they are not only matching it from a privacy perspective, but also cybersecurity.
You want to add anything, Maurice?
No.
Okay.
I will. So if you work in cyber and you've ever been the Department of No, this is your greatest opportunity to change that and shift everything left. You should be approaching your business leaders, including HR, to talk to them about how they can implement and utilize artificial intelligence safely to advance their processes. One of them being hiring. And I like what Joe said, which is, well, we restrict to the lowest, and that is a safe bet across the board. That said, we are not in all 50 states, so we aren't dealing with CCPA or anything else. So that said, I sit with my HR officer and walk her through how to do these things and how to analyze. If I post a position today, I'll have 1,000 entrants by lunch in 15 minutes. The recruiting world is wild right now. I've never seen anything like it. It has gone, frankly, forgive my language, hell in a handbasket since AI showed up. Because now everybody has models that are automatically taking in, and listen, I'll be the first to tell you, I have shown my students how to do this to help them get a job or to get that first job. We can build models now that take in the job description, take their actual experience, not lie, but polish and show where it fits that, build a cover letter, a resume, and submit it in seconds. That's what we're up against, right? So when we talk about using AI, if you aren't using AI to help you, you're going to be in trouble. And it's not even your fault. It's because your user base and the people that are applying for the jobs are using AI. And if you've got 1,000 entrants to go through, how can you not apply some type of data?
Parsing, yes.
Yeah, you have to. Or you're not going to, first of all, forget finding the best candidate. I mean, it's a nightmare. And if you have not yet had the opportunity to interview somebody who is using AI video, oh, it's real. We've caught them. We've had several at my company. And I don't know why they want to look different. We're not going to hire you based on how you look. We don't care. But they will put on a completely different face. And they are literally watching a screen that is listening to our questions, and it is answering it for them so that they can just say what they see on the screen. And they use artificial intelligence to make it look like their pupils are locked on the camera so you can't see them reading. If you haven't seen this, go look up the videos. It's incredible. You have to keep up with the times. So you're going to have to use AI to help.
All right. So I'm going to get to our more wrap-up phase where we talk a little bit about cyber best practices. And I'd like each one of our panelists to talk about a cyber best practice that you would suggest for other, corporate cyber divisions in terms of what to focus on.
Training. Training, plain and simple. Get your people comfortable with dealing with what's out there, however you have to do it. Spend whatever money you have to spend to do that, because when you look at the data that's out there, phishing is still the #1 threat vector out there. I can tell you from our past, the pen test that we had, we killed it on the external pen test. We had absolutely no problems. I mean, we were good. It was wonderful. I was proud of us. It's that internal stuff that absolutely slaughtered us. So again, you can call me Reverend Training. I cannot impress that enough. It will be the training part of it, and making sure that people are familiar and get a chance to actually look at some of the things that are out there, some of the things they'll be presented with. One of the things moving forward we're going to do is have simulations, phishing simulations for our workforce so that they actually get to see these things. And I haven't decided whether or not tell them up front that it's coming, maybe not, but we're definitely going to do it. So can't say it enough, training.
So what I will say is, Maurice said it earlier, Jeff hit on a little bit, there were some folks earlier that talked about this. The #1 thing for any cybersecurity program is understand your risk. Understand the business that you're in, to what Jeff was saying. Sit with the leaders of your different areas, right? Understand how the business operates and what we need to do to help protect each one of those areas. Because at the end of the day, again, Jeff mentioned this earlier too, that's the one unique thing about cybersecurity is it's not, if you just focus on technology, you're missing the boat, right? Because you're missing out on half the problem, which is the processes in the business. So really just understanding the risks in where your company is, what they're doing, what their goals are, and making sure that you're designing a program that is helping them protect that business.
I love that. If you can't tell, I have 1,000 things to say about everything. So I'm going to take a slightly different, I love everything he said, and I really mean this. If you work in cyber, this is your chance to make friends with your business lines and to not be a hurdle anymore, to be the one that shows up and says, hey, I know you've been reading the magazines about all the AI stuff. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do to help. Go do that. Go be an enabler of business. They will love you, and it will pay off in droves for security culture across the organization for years to come. You won't be a hurdle anymore. But all that aside, the thing I'm most afraid of, from a best practice approach, you need to have some type of AI responsibility and policies that cover mental health. We're dealing with this right now in our organization. If you've not been paying attention, in the West Coast, where all of these brilliant minds and Silicon Valley developers are working on this, some of these folks are being involuntarily committed to psychiatric institutions and having major mental health crisis. And if you've not worked directly with artificial intelligence for a multitude of hours, it may sound wild to you that somebody just using this tool could make them start to go, I hate to use the term crazy, but they start to lose faculties a little bit. I've worked with it extensively. My team has worked with it extensively. You start to feel it a little bit. It's weird. There is this weird feeling that comes with using advanced technology like this. It is alarming. You need to get out in front of that. My HR team is working on policies and mental health kind of directives to make sure that our staff is well protected and has access to resources, which, by the way, don't really exist yet. There are not a lot of AI-focused mental health resources. There's going to be. Trust me, that's going to be a whole market soon. Invest in that. Go find that and invest in it. You're going to make millions. I'm serious. It is the most alarming thing that I've seen. I've given the talk twice. I did a bunch of research on what I call AI atrophy. You've probably heard of that term. Around cognitive decline in folks that utilize artificial intelligence on a regular basis. It's been studied by MIT. It's been studied by a great number of institutions around the world at this point. It is real. The statistics are very real. You will not only fail to remember things, you've probably heard of the Google effect, but the biggest threat that it poses to us and where best practice needs to meet is that as soon as you start utilizing artificial intelligence to get the answer, not to learn how to get the answer, but to actually get the answer, your cognitive capabilities will begin declining if you do it on a regular basis. It's been proven statistically. You've got to look out for your staff because undoubtedly every one of us is working for a company and or is a leader who has staff that are already engaged with AI tools, and it's only going to get worse from here. Start looking out for them now.
Is this leading into more breaks? Is that what are some of the answers? I guess more regular breaks and then even more engagement amongst individuals? Responsible
utilization of artificial intelligence. If you implement AI, thank you. I know, because nobody's doing it responsibly. Look, we've all been given the greatest technology and tooling that's ever existed, ever. This is the beginning of a new age for mankind. Sorry, it is. Who could possibly expect us to responsibly manage it? That's why someone's up here laughing, and I'm laughing too. But you're being warned by me, by tons of people online. There's lots of articles around it. There's tons of studies on this. You need to responsibly implement these tools. And like I said in the very first thing I said today, there is going to come a time, and a lot of people are already doing it, where it is going to be making the decisions with little to no oversight. Until then, let's be responsible. Let's make sure that our staff is well protected and that we are checking in. One of the things that I recommend in my talk is that if you're a leader and you're meeting with your team, try no phone, no tablet, no laptop, whiteboarding ideas, talking through problems where they can't go and ChatGPT something or Grok something. Make sure they are still using their brains. You will lose that very valuable asset very, very quickly. I'm not even saying everybody's going to need to be committed or have what they're calling now AI psychosis. I'm not saying all your teams are going to have that, but there's a chance. And even if they don't fall into that level of issue, they will begin to lose what made them the great candidate that you hired and trained up in the first place. Look out for your staff.
Well, that's a good place to end.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
So what we're going to
on AI, it's always depressing.
We're going to let's go ahead and thank our panelists here.